The 2016 Republican presidential frontrunner candidate joins us now. How are you, sir?
Hi. How are you, Sean?
Congratulations, I understand, are in order. This is your 8th grandchild, the 3rd from Ivanka, and mom and baby are doing well?
They're doing great. Beautiful baby, and she's very happy, and they're very happy, and so am I, so it's great.
So you're an 8-time grandfather. Why do I suspect? Because I've talked to Don and Eric on this program, and I asked them to tell me stories about, like, when you were tough on them. And Don tells a story that one day you came home from a hard day at work and you asked for a Diet Coke and he told you to go get it yourself and that you weren't too happy about it. Do you remember that?
Well, he was very young.
Yeah.
He was very young, believe me.
You had to straighten him. Are you a spoiling grandfather? Do you like to spoil the kids?
Yeah, I think so. I'm good with the kids. I've always been good with the kids, and I think probably I am, sure.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the campaign a little bit. All right, this has gotten pretty vicious between you and Ted. Where's this going or ending?
Oh, I have no idea, Sean. I think I'm going to win. I think, I have a lot more delegates. I have millions more votes. We're going to find out. I signed a pledge, and it had to be a two-way street. We'll find out what's going on with that whole thing. With the Republican Party I'm talking about, but a lot of stuff is going on that's not good. When I win Louisiana and I end up getting less votes than he gets, I say, what's going on here? That's not the way the system's supposed to
Well, talk about
work.
that, because you won by a pretty significant margin in Louisiana. And
many votes.
And you're going to get fewer delegates than Ted Cruz. How is that possible?
Well, we're going to find out how it's possible. But I win Louisiana, and I was asking, I said, why am I getting less votes? I mean, give me a break. But this is the Republican primary politics. So we'll see what happens. And, again, I signed a pledge to be a good, honorable guy. And maybe they're not treating me honorably. We're going to find out.
Well, I would argue at the end of the day that you still have, if you win 53% of the delegates going forward, you'll get to 1237. So
no, I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to spend the week in Wisconsin, which I look forward to. I have a lot of friends in Wisconsin, so I'm going to spend a lot of time in Wisconsin. And, I guess according to the polls, it's fairly even. But, we'll see what happens, Sean. I mean, all I can do is do it. Look, nobody's going to do what I can do. Nobody's going to solve trade like I do. Every country in the world is ripping us off. Ted Cruz doesn't have a clue. He's clueless. And nobody's going to be able to do with trade what I can do. Nobody's going to be able to do with the border. I have Sheriff Joe of Arizona is endorsing me. Everybody wanted his endorsement. It wasn't even close, he said. He made a speech the other day. He said it wasn't even close. Nobody knows the border. Nobody understands what to do with the border like I do. Nobody knows what to do with illegal immigration. If I didn't bring up illegal immigration, you wouldn't even be discussing it now, Sean.
You know what's frustrating is we've been promised the 700 miles of border, et cetera. It's very, very frustrating to me because on the one hand you have Democrats, they're thinking long ball, and Democrats, they want an entire new generation of voting constituents, and they think they'll get that with illegal immigrants. And then Republicans, they just want to cater to their rich friends and get as much cheap labor into the country as you possibly can. And to me, that's frustrating because, Al-Qaeda can cross that border. We have drugs crossing that border. We have people committing crimes crossing that border. And
you have anybody crosses that border that wants to. You walk right across. And we have wonderful border patrols. The Border Patrol guys and gals, these are fantastic people. They want to do their job, but they can't. They're not allowed to do their job. And you need a wall. You're going to need a wall. When I won New Hampshire, the people in New Hampshire, the biggest single problem that they had was heroin pouring in, and it pours in right from that area. And I'm telling you, I promised them, I said, if I win this thing, you're not going to have that problem. That problem is going to be gone.
Yeah. How did you know? I mean, you've been right on two very important issues, two predictions you made that have come true. You identified bin Laden as the threat he was before 9/11. Then that tape surfaced. And here it was back in January with Maria Bartiromo. You talked about how Brussels had changed dramatically. What is it that gives you the insight that you can see these things happening, do you think?
Well, one never knows, but I have a gut instinct about things, and I always have. I've had a gut instinct about a lot of things. Take the oil was my instinct. They should have done it years ago. You wouldn't have ISIS. And I'll give you another one that's happening right now is in Libya, they're taking the oil. ISIS has that oil, and we ought to stop it. We ought to form a blockade and not allow them to take that oil. But they're taking the oil that Gaddafi used to have. They're taking the oil in Libya. and making a fortune with it. And we just sit by like a bunch of dummies. We don't know what's happening. This government is run so badly, and our country is run so badly, Sean. It's so discouraging. You understand it, but it's just so discouraging.
It really is discouraging because we don't get anything done.
I had an instinct. I read about bin Laden, and I saw him in various news programs, but I read about him, and I said, you better stop this guy. And I said it, and it's been record. I said it early on in 2000 before the World Trade Center got knocked down. Nobody did anything about it. And, I do have an instinct for that. Friends of mine would come back from Brussels, and they'd say, wow, they'd tell me what's going on. And, the Times today, although today they did a beautiful story on me, a front page story, which was very nice, actually. But the Times really hit me hard on knocking Brussels 2 months ago in a major story, and then today it turned out that I was right. Now everyone's tweeting about how Trump was right on Brussels. I took a lot of heat over the Brussels statement. Everyone thought it was wonderful, and it's not wonderful. It's a hellhole. And I said that. I said it on your show, but I said it, and it was covered very negatively by the Times at the time, and now a lot of people said, well, I guess Trump knows what he's talking about. And a big thing that I just said the other day was NATO. I mean, we're paying a disproportionate share for it. I'm not knocking NATO, but it's obsolete, and it's old, and it's tired, and it's got to be changed. And, today it's about terrorism, and there is no more Soviet Union. There's Russia. There's not a Soviet Union. And not that Russia isn't powerful, but we need more flexibility. And why are we paying a vast majority of the cost of NATO? Why aren't these other countries that are in NATO, why aren't they paying to the same extent that we are? It's so unfair. We're like the dummies that, it's like we're a big dumb country that doesn't know what it's doing.
In that statement that I played, you mentioned something that I mention a lot, and I've mentioned, I don't know, did you see the fight I had with Jorge Ramos on TV the other night?
Yes, I did. The whole thing was crazy.
Well, yeah, okay, so here it is, because he took your comments out of context, and he makes these blanket statements, and it really pisses me off when he says he's a journalist, and he's not. He's got an agenda. He's open borders. He's pro-illegal immigration. And I'm like, you're not a journalist. Stop acting like one. You have an opinion, but your opinion is wrong, and I'll tell you why. So we got into it. But you mentioned something that really stands out to me, and it's an argument I make, and that is, if you grow up under Sharia law, and you think you have the right to tell women how to dress, and you have the right to tell women whether they can go to school or not go to school, and you have the right to tell them they can't leave the house because they're not legally allowed to leave their house without a male relative, and they can't vote, and they can't drive. If you grow up in that environment, it is the antithesis of what this constitutional republic is built upon, which is equal rights and for all.
Right.
How do we know? How do you ascertain whether somebody is coming here because they don't want their family to grow up under oppression or they want to bring oppression to us? When I raise that question, the left goes insane. And I think it's, I don't understand why you would think all of a sudden they're going to come to America and they're Americans in terms of their thought process and they want to assimilate, because Europe hasn't seen much assimilation from my perspective.
You don't see assimilation here either very much. I mean, you're not seeing a very big deal of assimilation here. And, when I talked about the Muslims coming in and when I talked about a lot of other things, radical Islamic, and you talk about the kind of terrorism that we were experiencing, this is a unique situation. And we don't know what we're doing. People don't understand it. People have never seen this before. Look at Pakistan, what just happened, where they blew up, just tremendous numbers of people killed and badly, horrifically injured, and they did it in a Christian area. They wanted to make sure they got as many Christians as possible. I mean, what's going on is crazy today. You look at California, the two people that got married, and they go in and kill their 14 co-workers and many injured. And you look at Paris with 130 people killed and many, many injured so badly. And,
but you even said something else.
What's going on? It's horrible.
You said England isn't safe. Most people don't know this. Do you know in England they have over 80 Sharia separate courts where Muslims can go within that court system and alienate themselves from the laws that the rest of the people of Great Britain are bound to? Well,
it's the world is a crazy place right now, and it's had no leadership from the United States, and there's no power from the United States. And, can you imagine telling General George Patton we can't beat ISIS in a war? We can't beat ISIS, okay? And it's crazy. It's crazy. And we're poorly run. We're poorly led. Our military is getting weaker all the time. They're not being fed the kind of funds that you need to build it up, and we're getting weaker and weaker all the time. At the same time, people are making a fortune selling things to the military that, in some cases, they don't even want. The whole thing is absolutely the way our country is run. There's so much fraud, waste, and abuse. It is beyond anybody's comprehension. And if I win, I will show that very easily, very quickly. I mean, you look at the drug companies, the lack of bidding with drug companies. We're the largest drug purchaser in the world, and I'm talking about drugs to make you better. And the lack of bidding, because the drug companies have such power over the politicians. And I'm self-funding. I don't think I get any credit for self-funding, to be honest with you, Sean. But I'm self-funding. I really don't think I get the credit that it's worth for self-funding my campaign, because nobody says, "Oh, well, Trump's self-funding." It's like I don't ever hear that.
Look, a lot of people want to buy influence. All right, let me go to ask one question about the battle that has gone on, where your wife has been brought into it, Heidi Cruz has been brought into it, and I want to read something to you. And this was, I think it was in the Times where I actually saw this, that the Democrats are ecstatic. That's the word they use over this type of fight. What is, in other words, you're now going to Wisconsin. What is your take on the status of involving women, wives, children in campaigns?
Well, we shouldn't have. It shouldn't even be brought up. I mean, Ted Cruz sent out a picture of Melania at the cover of GQ, which was a good magazine, frankly.
Somebody paid for the rights for that, It was in the Hill.
Yeah, somebody paid, and people paid. I wonder who it is. I'm sure Ted could tell us who paid for the rights to it. And a PAC very friendly with him put out a Christmas card, or a card, essentially, a notice to people in Utah. It was a little provocative picture, not very by standards, but it was, the cover of GQ. It's not Penthouse or Playboy or anything, and it was a little bit of a provocative picture, which is fine. A lot of people thought it was nice. Some people didn't, but I'll tell you what, it was sent out, and then I retaliated minorly, and it is where it is, and it is what it is. And by the way, I never did. He got a very bad story in the National Enquirer. I never had anything to do with that story whatsoever. Never.
Well,
ever.
I can say for a fact
he likes to blame me because I don't know what's going on with him in his mind, but he blamed me for that story. I had nothing to do, and in fact, two stories have been written. Daily Beast.
Yeah, Kirsten Powers said this morning that
that's right.
It came from a Rubio person. I know for a fact that it was peddled by another campaign.
Yeah. I heard it was peddled by the Rubio campaign, and a lot of people know. So Daily Beast, no friend of mine, wrote a big piece about that it was Rubio, and Kirsten Powers, who's terrific, and even though she's slightly more liberal than we're used to, but that's okay. But she's terrific and talented and smart. And she said, as I understand it, she wrote a piece. They're sending it over to me, but she wrote a piece saying it was from the Rubio campaign. So he blamed me.
All right, let me ask you one last question. From your standpoint, is this now, from your perspective, over, and you're not going any further with this?
Well, I never want to go that, but I never started it. I didn't start this whole thing. Ted Cruz started it, and frankly, and he knew about it. So but as far as I'm concerned, it's over. I would much rather discuss trade, which I'm the best at. I'd much rather discuss the borders, which even Sheriff Joe will tell you Trump blows everyone away. I would much rather discuss that stuff, Sean, because it's really, I think it's better. It's certainly better for the party.
All right, Donald Trump on the Sean Hannity Show. Mr. Trump, we're going to see you in Wisconsin this week. Look forward to it, and have fun. Great state, great people, and we'll see you on the campaign trail. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, Sean. Bye.